Chapter 13, Lily 7, September 22nd to October 13, 2018, 2 months before. I'm eating apple pie with cheddar cheese melted on top of it when I find out that the thing I thought existed only inside of my head is actually real. And I couldn't be more excited or more scared. Tonight, Maya and I went to see the hockey game, hockey in Adams, New Hampshire, kind of being like football anywhere else. Our school mascot is the president, which is iconic when you think the only president from New Hampshire was Franklin Pierce, and that his 3 claims to fame are that he was a drunk, he completed the Gadsden Purchase, and he once ran over an old woman with his horse and was arrested for it while still in office. We were playing the Jefferson Patriots in the bleachers at school hockey rink where were packed. Maya screamed her head off after every goal. Asher scored 3 of the 5. It's kind of amazing to see the players skating so fast, almost like ballet dancers, except every last one of them is huge. But it's a violent beauty. Dirk, the goalie, got a penalty for roughing, although some other players sat in the box for him. In the last period, Asher wound up in the penalty box too for slashing. Afterward, we went to the party, which, of course, at Dirk's house. This was pretty much the bloodbath you'd expect. Dirk drinking an entire can of Foster's Lager, though through a giant funnel as the other hockey players shouted, "Dirk, Dirk, Dirk, Dirk." But instead of hanging out with the hockey bros, Asher spent most of the night sitting on the front porch talking to Maya and me. There were the 3 of us in the warm evening, crickets chirping, the moon shining down. I saw other girls watching us enviously. Many of them were from the women's soccer team, which is called the Lady Presidents. Some even barged in on our conversation to openly flirt with him, like Maya and I weren't even there. But every time, Asher politely dismissed them and picked up the thread. It was hard to square the fierce athlete I've been tearing up the ice an hour or 2 earlier with the thoughtful, quiet boy who seemed to listen to me talk the way I've listened to a favorite cello piece. When I was telling a story about Point Reyes, he asked about the Pacific Ocean. How is it different from the Atlantic? Isn't it weird to put your ankles into water that you know is also touching Australia and China and Vietnam? I told him about the sea otters and how they tie themselves to kelp when they sleep so they don't float away. And he said he heard that they float around linked together like a giant jigsaw puzzle. And had I ever seen that? Later, he and Maya talked about growing up in Adams. And then they started singing the phrases of the A1, Diner's House Special apple pie with steamed cheese. I said steamed cheese. I didn't know what that was, but it sounded a little gross. And the 2 of them started swearing left and right about how I have to have some now. And the next thing I know, we were in Asher's red Jeep, Rubicon. Maya up front, me in the back on our way to get a slice. They were chattering about people I didn't know yet and moments I hadn't been around to share. I know I have only been in Adams a little while, but watching Maya and Asher in the front seat was like seeing 2 circles of a Venn diagram overlap and realizing I was somewhere on the outside. In the diner booth, I sat next to Maya, Asher opposite us. They watched me lift a bite of the pie to my lips. The cheese had been melted in a little copper tin, then laid on top of the crust with a spatula. It is a little bit sweaty and very gooey and frankly sort of nasty, but surprise, it's ridiculously good. It's hot and tart and sharp. Okay, I say to them, you were right, it's great. another convert, says Asher. It's good that you like it, says Maya, because this is kind of it for Adams. There's ice fishing, there's hockey, and there's steamed cheese. Asher has ordered a cup of coffee and the waitress now puts it down on our table. He adds 2 sugars to it, some milk from the creamer. This surprises me. He doesn't look like someone who drinks sweet coffee. He doesn't even look like someone who drinks coffee. I wonder why that wasn't my initial impression. I also wonder what to do with the surge of curiosity that nearly buckets me to know just how he takes his coffee, but what pets he had growing up, and if cilantro tastes like soap to him, and which TV shows he can quote from memory. Asher sips his coffee and then he looks at me thoughtfully. Do you miss California? I think about the village of Port Reyes Station, the bovine bakery, and the little bookstore. I think about the ocean and walk down the steps to the lighthouse. But I also think about Jonah and Sorrel and everything that happened at school. It's okay, Asher says. I wasn't trying to dig around. I'm just curious about anywhere that isn't here, you know. He raises his coffee cup to his lips. It's hard not to talk about California sometimes when you have 5 months of winter. Correction, 6 months of winter, says Maya. I'm excited to see snow, I tell them. I never seen it before. Maya laughs. We can help you see some snow. She turns to Asher. Remember that time when we were 9 and we made this snow fort that looked like a castle? I feel a pang of jealousy. I've never had friends like that. Maya and Asher have an unbroken line of history. Asher puts his cup down in his saucer and glances out the window. He doesn't reply to Maya like he's lost in his thoughts. The winter's fine, he says, turning back to us. The hard part is the spring. March and April, when you really want it to get nice out, and instead it just keeps snowing. And driving during mud season is a competitive sport, Maya adds. We laugh and we eat our pie and look out at the quiet main street until Asher finishes his coffee. I imagine driving here during mud season with Asher and Maya 6 or 7 months from now, watching the snow finally melt. I also have a quick flash of next summer, meeting here for apple pie with cheese one time because we're off to our various colleges. Me to Oberlin or Peabody, and Asher and Maya to wherever it is they want to go. Something else I don't know about him. I'll be back, says Maya. She walks the length of the diner and disappears into a tiny bathroom. Lily says, Asher, I have to ask you something. He says it most fiercely. I'm afraid he's about to tell me something terrible. Asher lowers his hand onto mine. I wanted to ask if you ever want to go out sometime with me. I'm hoping I don't look too shocked, but I've been taught by the world to think of myself as forever. I've been taught by the world to think of myself as forever. That anyone who ever expresses the smallest bit of affection for me is either someone who is just lying in order to taunt and hurt me, or even worse, someone who does not like me. That does like me, but only because they don't know everything, and the moment that they do everything, all their love would turn to ash. So the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, are you sure? But then his face ripples into this big broad smile, and is everything I can do not to pass out face first into an empty pie plate. I am sure, he says, but what? What about Maya? His eyebrows raise like the idea of Maya as a romantic partner is something that has never seriously occurred to him. She's not the one I'm asking, he says. Yes, I tell Asher. It's the softest thing I've ever said, but Asher squeezes my hand. He heard me. Well, 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 says Maya, now standing at the side of our table. What do we have here? Asher does not let go of my hand. I asked Lily out, Asher says. Maya's mouth opens and then she snaps it shut. She looks from me to Asher, then smiles like she orchestrated this whole thing. I was wondering how long it would take you two to realize the obvious. Was I that easy to read, says Asher. Maya rolls her eyes. Asher, you just spent a whole night sitting on a porch talking about sea otters when you could have been doing funnels with Dirk. Do you really think I thought that was because of me? How much do you actually know about sea otters, Maya, says Asher. A lot. Maya laughs. I don't know shit about sea otters, but I know all about you. She looks at her watch. Now we can get out of here. Okay, says Asher. We go out to his Jeep. His fingers along my spine and Maya gets in the back seat. You take shotgun, she says to me. I think about protesting, but Asher kind of nods at me and holds open the door to the passenger seat and helps me up into the car. He's got surprisingly good manners considering that earlier this evening I saw him spend 2 minutes in the penalty box for slashing. I've had one boyfriend. This was the fall of 11th grade. Before everything went to hell, Jonah Cooper and I had been friends as sophomores, and that whole summer we hiked the National Seashore or lazed around the house playing Xbox. He had black hair and freckles. He was lanky and a little bit shy. In the fall and winter he fenced with me, but in the spring he was the pitcher for the Point Crest baseball team. He had a killer fastball. In August, when he passed his driver's test, we spent a lot of time cruising up and down the coast. It was nice after all that time to have a friend besides Sorrel. We went to the Cowgirl Creamery and spent part of the afternoon lying on the lawn, sampling all the cheese. Red Hawk, Wagon Wheel, Devil's Gulch. We drove to the Cypress Tunnel, its arching tree branches interlocked overhead. It looked like a portal to another world, which, looking back, it was, although not the one that I had hoped for. On a September day, we drove out to his father's to the seashore top down. We parked the car and walked down to the Wildcat Beach in hopes of hiking to Alamere Falls. The beach was nearly deserted and very dramatic, the stretch of sand running between the crashing ocean on our right and high cliffs to the left. I told Mom our plan, and she was insistent that we only do the hike at a low tide. One time, in fact, she had to rescue some people who got trapped against a cliff wall. A couple who set out at exactly the wrong time on exactly the wrong morning. But Jonah and I had the perfect day. We found seashells and pieces of polished glass, and creepy doll with no head and all of its clothes washed off, and we made up a whole story about what had happened to the doll. A cursed little girl who had thrown it overboard after it had started to whisper to her in her sleep. When we finally got to Alamere Falls, the creek gushed wildly off the cliff and crashed 40 feet down. The stream from the falls had cut a winding path into the sand as the water rushed toward the ocean. Mist hung in the air and on our faces. That was when Jonah took my hand. I could feel my heart hammering away in my chest. It felt so nice. His hand in mine. I was afraid to move because it might be a dream. And I was afraid to move it in case it wasn't. What came next was that he kissed me. Then he kissed me again. It was sunset of the same day. After we hiked all the way back to his car, after we drove down the other side of the point, after we stopped every 5 minutes to make out some more, that we stood by the Elephant Seal Overlook in Iverness. Below us were the seals. It was just the juveniles on the beach at the time of year and a bunch of rubbery teenagers. Lily, said Jonah, I want this, I do, but I also want to make sure that no matter where it goes, we stay friends. Promise me we won't lose that. I don't want to lose it either, I said, but I wondered even then whether we were making a promise we could not keep. My first official date with Asher Fields is a week later, Saturday morning, September 29. What we're doing is a surprise, although he did ask me for my shoe size. I'm a little nervous about this because, of course, I'm paranoid about my big feet. But Asher just said, okay, great, which makes me suspect we're going bowling, or I don't know, tap dancing? But when Asher pulls into the parking lot, we are not at a bowling alley, we are at Adams High Hockey Rink. Deserted except for the two of us. I wonder who Asher had to bribe to get in here. Then I realized he probably just had to smile and ask nicely. I can't imagine anyone saying no to him. When he hands me the skates that are in the trunk of the Jeep, he says size 10 women's and size 8 men's. Your skates could be one smaller than your shoes, he tells me. Lucky for you, I have every pair of skates I've ever owned going back to 3rd grade. It is sweet that he bought me a pair of skates that fit, but I hold them out like they are poisonous because they're black. Asher reads my mind. What, you don't want to wear men's skates? The truth of the matter is that I don't. I know it's just a little thing, but all those childhood years wearing the wrong clothes, it pushes my buttons a little. Then I take a look at Asher's smiling face and I decide that just this once I can get over myself, and I lace it up. The first thing you need to learn, Asher explains as he helps me onto the ice, is how to fall. I'm pretty sure that's the one thing I already know how to do, I say. Correction, you need to learn how to fall safely, says Asher. If you're going to skate, you're going to fall, so here's what you do. He lets go of my waist for a second, does something almost like a pirouette. Let's see, pirouette. Is that now he's facing me. His skates go ish on the ice. When you feel yourself going over, bend your knees, put both arms out to the side and push yourself down onto your ass. You want to try it? I'm afraid to fall, I say, and I think you can say that again. Watch me, says Asher, and he just does what he described, splaying himself down so gently. It's like he just laid down in a frosty white bed. Okay, I say, and a moment later I'm beside him. You, he says, are a A+ student. Now lesson 2, getting back up. Spin so you're on your knees. Then put both hands on your right knee and push hard as you can until you stand. Now put your arms out to the sides and get your balance. Ready? He does it, and now he's standing above me looking down. Without a pause, I get up too, and he smiles like he's impressed. Nicely done. Ready for some baby steps? I'm absolutely ready for some baby steps, Asher Field. You have no idea, or maybe you do. Maybe you're as ready as I am. Asher tells me that he teaches little kids how to skate during the summer and that he hasn't lost one yet. He talks to distant me so I don't look down at my feet. A half hour later, I'm actually doing it. Gliding around the rink. Not gracefully exactly, but without falling. Constantly. I'm not good at stopping though. Asher shows me how to do this too. To stop, you put your right foot forward and hold it at an angle. You should make a little snow when you're doing it. That's how you know you've used enough pressure. Which is what I'm trying to do when I wipe out on the ice. Not gently. Asher taught me before, but a complete crash where my limbs go in directions they aren't meant to go, and the ice knocks the breath out of me. I'm thinking, don't cry, don't let him think you're not tough. and I almost succeed until Asher skates to me swiftly and gets me down on my knees to make sure I'm okay. The bracelet I wear to cover my scars came loose during my wipeout, and as I tug it back into place, I realize Asher is staring at them, and fuck, my tears spill over. I feel like I've been holding them in for years now. He helps me sit up. The ice is cold through my jeans. After I calm down, Asher hesitantly touches 2 fingers to my bracelet. That looks like it hurt. I was in a car accident, I lie, 2 years ago on Valentine's Day. I feel awful now not telling him the truth, but there is no way I'm gonna do that on our first date, or it will likely be the last. What I want right now is not to be reminded of Jonah or Valentine's Day or anything that came before. What I want to do right now is put all of that behind me and just skate with Asher. Asher helps me back onto my feet. This time he doesn't let go, and even though I'm staying upright, I know I'm falling for this beautiful boy who skates backward as he holds my hands and looks into my eyes. Then Asher guides me into the middle of the rink, raises one hand and says, I'm gonna spin you. Go up 1 skate, okay? Wait, what? Go with it, he says. But I was overthinking everything. My skates, this date, my life, and just like that, I crash again, taking Asher down with me. We roll and come to a rest in a heap. We are right at the center of the ice, the place where, during a game, the ref drops the puck to set everything into motion. I think we're ready for the Olympics, I say. He laughs. For sure. I'm crushing you, I say, wiggling for him to get off, but he tightens his arms around me. I'm good, he murmurs. His words are little clouds. Actually, I kind of like this better than skating. I like it too, I whisper. And then I lean down, breathless and cold, and press my lips against him. There it is, our first kiss. After about 800 years, he sits up and I move to the side. I'm turning into ice, he says. Let me help you up, I say, and I reach down and then fall on top of him again. He kisses me again. Against my mouth, he warns. You can get a penalty for that. What did I do? Delay of game, he says, grinning, and hooking. Hooking, I repeat. What do I get for that? 2 minutes in the box, he says. He gets up and pulls me with him, skating us to the far side of the rink, where a little door opens into the penalty box. Asher and I sit down on the bench and fall into each other again. I like the penalty box, I say, coming up for air. Sometimes you get an extended penalty, says Asher, and have to stay in a little longer. What do we have to do to get one? Asher's hands fall upon my breast. We are alone in the giant rink, and the world around us is frozen. He leans in for another kiss. Misconduct, he whispers. 6 best moments of week 1 with Asher Fields. 6. We are sitting on top of an abandoned lifeguard stand at the Adamstown Beach on Pierce Lake in the summer. Asher says, this place is mobbed, but now it's deserted. There's a wooden raft that's been hauled up onto the beach for winter. Leaves are turning orange, a pair of loons afloat on the lake, and they sound like ghosts. Asher tells me loons mate for life. 5. I am walking down the hallway on my way to lunch with Maya and Asher's approaching from the other direction with Dirk and the hockey bros in formation, and he stops and says, hey, not so fast, and takes me to his arms and kisses me again. Right there in the corridor in front of everyone, Dirk watches amazed. Dude, he says. 4. I make hope cakes for Asher on Wednesday night. On Thursday, I bring them into school, and we sit in the cafeteria together, just us two. He's supposed to be doing his calculus homework, but instead we're holding hands across the table. Other people are staring. We are officially a couple now. We're eating hope cakes. It's like that. Whoa, he says. Those are amazing. What is in these? I grab his calculus notebook and write down the recipe on a blank page. Then I hand it back to him. At the bottom, I write, bake in oven for 40 minutes or until an impossible thing comes true. Whichever comes first. 3. We have our first fencing tournament of the fall next weekend. October the 13th, the team is practicing hard. I swing my sword forward and shift my weight onto my right leg and charge at my opponent. As I do this, I give off my classic scream, "Aye!" And everyone looks over at me like, who's that girl? I look up at the bleachers and there's Asher watching me with a look that says I know who she is. 2. Saturday is usually warm and Asher and I are in the fields behind his house, right near the place where the long grass meets the tall trees. We lie on a blanket drinking iced tea sweetened with his mother's honey. I'm reading The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison and Asher's sketching. He asks if I could be his model and I say sure. I prop myself up on elbow. Draw me like one of your French girls, I say, like Kate Winslet in Titanic. He smiles and says, don't make me promise you're not going to keep, and I hear myself answer, I'm not. A moment later, my shirt is off, and so is my bra. And I'm looking him right in the eye, and I think he'll have the picture of me forever, and I'm not afraid. 1. We are at my house after school, but Mom is at work. Boris is on the floor. Asher sits in a chair by the fireplace as I play my cello for him. It's The Swan by St. Saëns. I think about the legend of Swan, the one that says that the bird is mute for entire life until the moment she's about to unalive. And then she sings the most beautiful melody in the whole universe, so gorgeous that just hearing it can crack you in half. It's called a swan song. When I finally lift my bow for the strings, Asher's eyes are shining. He looks like I feel. Doesn't it make you sad, he says, to play a song like that? It's only a sad song, I tell him, if there's no one to hear it. He kissed me and I feel like my heart is gonna rise from my chest, like I will be forever wearing it on the outside. I heard it, he says. Asher and I reveal small bits of information to each other like we are trading Pokemon cards. I learned that he is allergic to cantaloupe. He finds out that I'm double jointed. He tells me that he once had a goldfish that lived 6 years. I tell him I watched every episode of The Office at least 8 times. He says once he saw Adam Sandler in a Subway restaurant in Oshawa. I admit that I didn't know until a month ago that the division sign was just a fraction with dots, replacing the numerator and the denominator. We tell each other the things that have to be whispered too, that I've moved so much no place feels like home, that he's afraid to tell his mother he wants to go to art school, that I worry my mom has spent so much time worrying about me she won't remember who she is when I leave for college. The difference between Asher and me, though, is the presumptibility. He's telling me the truth and I'm skirting edge of lies. When he asked me why we moved so much, I say it was for my mother's job. When he asked me why my mother worries, I say it's because I'm her only child. When he asks me if my parents are divorced, I tell him that my father is dead. It is particularly gratifying to kill him off, if only fictionally. My whole life begins to orbit around Asher, and when I'm with him, I'm enraptured. When I'm not with him, I want to be. Even when I spend time with Maya now, she wants to know all about Asher. I can't tell if she's trying to be a good friend or if it's because that's the only way she can be part of the relationship. that is not only big enough for two. But in spite of all of that, I'm very guarded in what I choose to reveal to her. Saying the words out loud makes it less special. Somehow, I don't want to share Asher with anyone, not even the girl who introduced me to him. But he wants to share with me, at least with his mother. I know that, like mine, his father isn't in the picture. And I know that his mother's a beekeeper, which is weird and a little badass. The first time I met her, she takes me out to the hives and we watch her bees carrying out their tiny secret missions. I didn't tell her that I'd already been to her farm the week before, when she wasn't home, and that while she was out, I took my shirt off in the autumn sunshine and Asher sketched me in the book. While he taught me Beekeeping 101, Asher put his hand in the back pocket of my jeans, and all I can think of was that he wasn't ashamed of me in front of his mother. I caught her staring at me that she thought I wasn't looking. "I like this one," she said to Asher before I left. But I could tell she was thinking, "This boy is the most precious thing I've had in the world. You be careful." We were surrounded by drifting yellow mist, like the smoke that wafts from a fireworks show. Asher and I are making love, and I smell gunpowder. His eyes are soft and green and knowing. That's what tips me over the edge, in fact. Not the undulating electricity rising in me, but his eyes, those eyes of his, which tell me, "Lily, you are seen and loved." And then, yeah, then the morning sun is coming through the window, slanting on my pillow. I open my eyes from sleep and I remember the big glass of water I drank last night, just before I turned out the light. It's one of the more arcane delights of being trans, the surprise orgasms that sneak up on me sometimes if my bladder is full. Dr. Powers explained to me once, because of the way my parts have been turned inside themselves. A lot of the most tender tissue now rests right up against my bladder, which means that if I have a lot of liquid to drink the night before I go to bed, as my bladder fills up toward the morning, I can wind up getting all hot and bothered while I'm unconscious. The result of these orgasms that arrive unbidden in the early dawn, I call them the night visitors. Biology sure is goofy in my conclusion. As I sit up in bed, a lot of the details of the dream are already disappearing, like dew on summer grass, but the look in Asher's eyes that I remember may be because that much was no dream. He looked at me the way before and grinned and did not disappear. A few days later, Asher meets my mom for the first time. Mom picks us up and takes us to Ripley Falls near Bartlett. Mom is a full ranger mode, showing us all the flora and fauna, but she has her guard up too, remembering what's happened before. But she mums the hell out of him anyway, insisting he put on sunscreen, making sure he has a full water bottle, and so on. They were off. This is on a trail that she's been on several times since she's part of the lynx habitat she's researching. But I haven't been on it. Asher is diplomatic, asking Mom about her work, and for the next 1 miles, we hear all about the lynx. The tufts on their ears increase their hearing. They can detect a mouse from 250 feet away. Their big rounded feet can act like snowshoes. "Have you seen one yet?" Asher asked, "since you've been here?" Mom sighs, "Not yet, but I'm hoping." Suddenly there's a flickering of wings as a bird frightened by our approach skitters into the air, flies over our heads and lands on the branch of the white birch. "Oh my God," says Mom, her long braids swinging around as she points toward the bird. "Look, it's a scarlet tanager. It's an amazing creature, bright red and blue-black wings, and our sudden sighting of this It is like seeing some fabulous celebrity walking swiftly from a theater door and into a limousine. The bird perched on her branch looked at us nervously for a second. Then it takes off, disappearing in the forest. Mom looks up at us with her mouth open. Did you see that? It's on the SGCN list. SGCN? Asked Asher. Species of greatest conservation need. Mom's still standing there stunned, like we just saw Elvis. They're so beautiful and so threatened, her eyes fall upon me. And then she turns and leads up deeper into the wild. Later, after we get home, Mom makes us dinner while Asher looks around the house. He goes over the bookshelves and reads some of the titles. Silent Spring, The Sun Also Rises, The Stand, paper book folios of Shakespeare plays, everything ever written by Toni Morrison. I go into the kitchen and see if I can help Mom. She just looks at me with big shining eyes like she's about to cry. Are you okay, Mom? I ask. I'm guessing she's falling in love with Asher a little bit too. Wasn't that wonderful today, she says, seeing the scarlet tanager? And I realize it isn't Asher she's all emotional about. It was seeing a rare bird in the wild. I'm just about to tell her to get over herself when I hear Asher's voice from the next room. Whoa, he says. I head back into the living room in time to see him holding, to my horror, an old photo album, the one that contains picture of me as a boy. What's whoa, I say, trying to be casual. Who's this boy? Asher asks. He could be your twin. I feel the blood rushing to my face. I'm also remembering the fight Mom and I had when we were unpacking about leaving the album out. Sometimes I feel like I don't have any history, she'd said. That's my cousin, I say swiftly. My cousin Liam. Wow, says Asher. He looks just like you. Where does he live? California? I can tell from the complete silence in the kitchen that my mom is listening to this conversation very, very intently. It's a good question. Where does Liam live now? No, I tell Asher quietly. He's gone. Leukemia. Jesus, says Asher. I didn't mean to, It's all right, Asher, says Mom, coming out of the kitchen. She takes the album from Asher's hand and puts it back on the bookshelf. We always loved Liam. He was a great kid. Oh, no. The fencing tournament is at Dartmouth, a school that my mother wants me to go to so badly. She's done everything but fill out the application herself. She definitely feels like I should do the full liberal arts thing instead of going to the conservatory because it will make me well-rounded. That's what she says anyway, but the real reason she loves Dartmouth is because it's less than 2 hours away from Adams. We'd be so close. We'd be able to stay close, she says, although I'm pretty sure that hanging out with Mom on weekends is not gonna be my top priority next year. What's really clear to me is that Mom hasn't really figured out what she's gonna do with her life after I finally launch to college. Maybe she'll stay at the Forest Service in Kempton, but it seems like a long shot to me. What I hope she'll do actually is, although hike the Appalachian Trail, which she always wanted to do, that'd be a 5 or 6 month long commitment, hiking from Mount Catden in Baxter State Park, Maine, all the way down to Springer Mountain, Georgia. People who do it say it's transformative, that they figure out what's missing in their lives or who they are meant to be. Maybe she'd even meet some other hiker and fall in love. I'd like that, knowing she isn't alone. On the drive here, in fact, Mom suggested that after the tournament, We should hike part of the AT, just like a little day hike, she said. Incredibly, the trail goes right through Hanover, goes right through the campus. In fact, but I'm pretty sure that when the tournament is over, Ash and I are going to try to sneak off to a mini golf ice cream place in West Lebanon. Provided we can ditch not only Mom but Maya, who's driving down with Asher to cheer me on. My coach, Mr. Jameson, is an AP English teacher, better known as Chopper. He's a fearsome character indeed, considering that he's at least 70. He paces up and down the edge of the piste, watching every move his fencers make. He's such a grumpy old man, but then again, when he picks up a foil during practice to show us how to make a particular move, he suddenly is full of grace and pose. I win my first 3 matches, 15-4, 15-8, and 15-1, but by the time we get to my final match of the day just after lunch, people are tired. The crowd in the stands is thinning out, but there's still a fair number of folks watching, including what looks like a number of kids from the Dartmouth College fencing team, who I can identify by their extremely cool matching jackets decorated by big green D, a white tree in the middle overlaid with 2 crossed swords. My opponent is a little girl, Nancy, who has at least 3 inches, 45 pounds on me. I can tell from the start that she's going to be tough. I saw her steamroll her last opponent this morning, 15-2, and it didn't even take her the full 3 periods to do it. She gets a touch off of me in the first period, and then another, and then 3 more. It's 5-0 when we take the first break, and Chopper comes over to whisper in my ear. "What's the matter with you?" he growls. I want to explain to him that Nancy is bigger and stronger than I am, but he's not hearing it. "Use your head," he says. "She's big, but she's slow. You can outsmart her. I know you can." The ref says, "In guard, Prince Elites." Nancy comes charging at me and gets a touch before I even raise my sword to parry. "Focus, Campanello," shouts Chopper. "Focus." I take a deep breath and the ref says, "Prince Elites," and just like that, I point my sword at Nancy and I scream, "Eats!" and I flèche her. She is not prepared for this at all, and unless I'm mistaken, she takes a half step backward before I get the point. "Halt," says the ref, and the place erupts in cheers. It's 6-1. This point is enough to put me back in the game. In the next 5 minutes, I catch up with her, tie her, and then we trade the lead back and forth. It's 10-10 at the end of regular play. Now we're in sudden unaliving. The ref conducts the draw before we get started, a coin flip, which Nancy calls and wins, and means that if neither of us scores in the final minute, Nancy gets the win. It's not a good situation for me to be in, but then it's not the first time my back's been against the wall. My whole being is focused on anticipating and outguessing Nancy. With 15 seconds to go, I get my break. Nancy parries an attack, and when she swings her arm out too far to the right, leaving her open and slightly off balance, that's when I hold my sword forward, move my weight onto the right knee, then charge at her. I get the point in the match. The gym erupts in thunder. We take our helmets off, and Nancy and I reach forward to shake hands. She takes her helmet off, and to my surprise, she looks just at me with generosity and respect. "You're amazing," she says. "Isn't she?" answers a strangely familiar voice. I turn, and that is when all the sound in the room disappears. "Jonah," I say. The Valentine's Day massacre was the final act for Jonah and me, I guess. But things had really ended long before that. I had been fencing against Hartshorn. Not well, but that wasn't the problem. It was because halfway through my third match, there'd been a disturbance up in the stands. A man was shouting and swearing from one of the bleachers, more upset with my poor performance than maybe I was. The voice was unremarkable. You can be anything you want to be, Liam. There in the bleachers was my father wearing a ratty-looking raincoat. He had at least 2 days' beard on him. His voice sounded like he was drunk. I was impossible. Could he be here? Even more rattled, I lost that match and the next one. I kept wanting to go up into the stands and say, "What the fuck are you doing here? Why can't you leave us alone?" I wanted Mom to pull him by the hand into the parking lot and tell him to get lost. But Mom wasn't there that day. She was at the National Seashore doing research on the tide pools. Had he driven down from Seattle to see me fence? How had he wound up so drunk on a Saturday morning? It was the first time I realized that you can cut someone out of your life, but that doesn't mean they'll cut you out of theirs. Fuck you, Dad, I thought. Strangely, the anger helped me focus. I stepped up for my final match and made short work of my opponent, but I wasn't really fighting a fencer from Hartshorn. I pulled off my mask as a crowd cheered. "That's my kid," Dad shouted, pointing to me. "That's my boy." Everyone on the team, including Jonah and Sorrel, looked up at my drunken father and then at me. "Lily," asked Sorrel, "who is that?" A security guard was talking to Dad now. Dad was still shouting. "His name's not Lily," he shouted. "It's Liam. I should know. I'm the one who fucking named him." "I have no idea," I said and turned to leave the gym. That weekend, Sorrel took me aside. "Everyone's been talking about that guy on the fencing tournament who said he was your father," she said, and she waited, like she knew if she let the time and silence rise between us, I'd fill it with the answers she wanted. "I don't know how to tell you," I said. "I'm your friend," she told me, "and I've got your back. You can tell me anything." I made the mistake of trusting her and told her I was trans. I told her about Seattle and how my mother and I left our home in the middle of the night. "Have you had the surgery?" she asked, and I told her no, I wasn't old enough. Maybe someday. I started to cry as I told her, "You have to promise me you won't tell anyone." Sorrel just looked at me. "After yesterday, everybody already knows." As it turned out, Sorrel's definition of having a friend's back didn't match mine. Through texts and whispers, she made the most private aspects of my life as public as possible. I know Sorrel thought she was doing the right thing. We all have to look out for Lily now, treat her with respect. But looking out for Lily wasn't that people had in mind. Instead, when I got to school on Monday, some kids stared at me with a combination of pity, horror, and disgust. "Oh, sure, some people try to be nice." "You're so brave," they said. But most people just ignored me, like I made them uncomfortable, like I was suddenly invisible. The only person I really wanted to talk to about this was avoiding me. I finally saw Jonah that morning at his locker. "You," he said, like he couldn't even bear to call me by my name. I wanted to say, "Remember when we were standing by the ocean and you said no matter where it goes, we stay friends? Can we just—" "No," Jonah said. "You know, yesterday if you asked anyone in the school who I was, they'd say, yeah, he's the guy who pitched a perfect game. But now you know who I am, the guy who was too stupid to know what was in your pants." That's That's not what matters, I said. What matters is how we feel, how I feel. Jonah's eyes slid away from me. I feel like you should go fuck yourself. He stormed off down the hall, leaving me standing there alone. Goodbye, Jonah. Hello, Lily, Jonah says. He's wearing one of those jackets with the D and the crossed swords. He doesn't look unhappy to see me, but he does look embarrassed. Then again, the last time I saw him, he was standing over me in the parking lot and my dress was in shreds. What are you doing here? I asked. I go to Dartmouth, says Jonah. I'm a freshman. Of course he is. I'd be a freshman too if I hadn't lost a year, thanks to in part to Jonah. I live here now, I explained. Well, a couple hours north. I wasn't sure if it was you until I saw your flèche. I recognized that scream anywhere. Members of the team are swirling around celebrating. The stands are empty. Maya waves to me beaming, but I distance myself from her and everyone else. I don't want the stain of my old life to spread through my new one. Listen, Jonah says. I just wanted to say I'm sorry about what happened. I thought about you a lot. I want to tell him I've thought about you too, you bastard. But there's something different in his face. He seems more mature, maybe a little smarter about the world, maybe a little bit sadder. Good, I think. I want him to be sad. I did a terrible thing, Jonah says. He looks like he's in real anguish. I remember the moment just before I succumbed to the anesthetic, 98, 97. On the thought that passed through my mind was the hope that I could find forgiveness for Jonah. It isn't easy to do. Yeah, I acknowledge you did. If I could take back, well, you can't, I say. I just need to know, he says, if you're okay, if you're happy. It's a simple question, but for me, it's never been an easy one. I want to say, yeah, since I got away from you. Instead, I just nod and Jonah smiles. That's good, he says. You deserve it. Well, I say, I'm unexpectedly moved by this. Thanks, Jonah. Someone calls Jonah's name and twists around, raises a finger to them to tell them to wait up. You take care, he says. He steps forward, opening his arm, and incredibly, I find myself walking into them. Even more incredibly, it feels good, like I am starting to let go of some of the anger that had haunted me all this time. I'm still holding my sword in my right hand, but as my arms wrap around his back, my foil falls out of the hand and I rest my face against his shoulder. Friend of yours, says Asher. Asher, I say, pulling back swiftly. My heart is pounding away because just a few choice words, Jonah could wreck my life in a second. Former boyfriend, actually. Jonah corrects and he smiles at me, as if he just set the universe to rights. My jaw drops. Now is when Jonah decided to own up to what he should have back then. This is Jonah from Port Reyes. He goes to Dartmouth now. I explain. I didn't know he went to school here. Asher looks from me to Jonah and back again. It was great to run into you, says Jonah. I really am sorry, really. If you ever want to talk, well, maybe you still have my cell. Asher grabs my shoulder. She doesn't want to talk to you, he says. Jonah looks like he's been slapped. He turns his back and I instinctively reach out to tell him. Asher didn't mean that. He's just never seen me with anyone else and he's jealous. But before I can reach him, Asher yanks on my arm hard, like he's cracking a whip. Oh, that hurts, I say. What are you doing? What are you fucking doing, says Asher. I look down and someone else is hugging you. I want to laugh at that if it weren't all so goddamn sad. I have never seen him like this, vindictive, jealous alpha. Asher, back off, says Maya, who has made her way through the crowd now with my mother by her side. They both witnessed the whole thing. Maya's voice seems like it slapped him out of the spell, and he looks first at her and then at me. He drops my arm like it's on fire. Lily, My mother steps forward and claps her arm around my shoulders. I'm going to take my daughter home now, she says firmly. I pick up my sword up off the ground and my mom glides me out of the Dartmouth gym. Asher follows us halfway dazed like the beast in a fairy tale who awakens from the curse. I didn't mean it, he says. I know, I think, as tears spill down my face. So why did you do it? The next night, Maya comes over for sleepover. She's brought Captain Morgan in an S-Well bottle, and neither her mom's nor mine are the wiser. We eat sheet cake left over from a forest ranger's office birthday party and watch Naked and Afraid. We talk about what one item we could bring with us if we were on the show. I say a knife because obviously, but Maya says she'd take her oboe because sometimes on that show you just need something to calm your nerves. I do everything I can not to think about Asher, who has texted me 17 apologies. The truth is, my heart hurts, and not because I can't forgive Asher, although that was some weird shit he pulled off at the fencing match. But it's more like up to now, everything has been a dream with him, and this is the first time I've had to face this obvious. That it's not a dream, that he's just has a nasty jealous streak, and that having a relationship with him isn't only going to be about making out on a lifeguard stand and playing the swan. I'm remembering Jonah, how different he seemed. I guess I seemed different too. It was my scream that let him know that I was still me and still fighting. When it's time to go to bed, Maya and I change in our pajamas. I still feel strange about undressing in front of other girls. I think I always will. It's a behavior that was forged in making myself invisible before in locker rooms and bathrooms. Maya rips off her shirt and parades around in her panties, shimming into a satin set of shorty PJs. I shuck off my pants and turn my back and drag my turtleneck off my head, taking care that my cuff bracelets don't come loose so Maya won't see my scars. I unhook my bra, folding myself forward like a bird tuckling in her wings, arms crossed over my breasts until I can pull on a t-shirt. Cranky Frankie's Barbecue. The t-shirt says Girls Gone Wild. Suddenly, Maya throws her arm around me and holds up her phone. Smile, she says, and she snaps a selfie. I'm getting dressed, I complain, glancing down at my bare legs. Maya shrugs. If we don't post the girls' night on Insta, did it even really happen? She starts typing on her phone, but then it blows up the picture, the squints and reaches for my arm. She twists it a little until she's looking directly at the big, ugly bruise where Asher grabbed me. You can see the marks of each of his fingers and the round blob where he pressed his thumb. Oh my God, she says. Are you okay? I'm fine, I tell Maya. It's nothing. That's the end of chapter 14.